If your car makes this noise, it may sound scary, but don't panic. Well, at least not yet, because in this video I will show you how to easily diagnose engine knocking without taking it apart. I hope you are watching this for fun and not because you are having the noise, but either way, stay until the end, because I will go through the whole journey from different ways of troubleshooting to a final fix. This car has many problems, like this window switch, but engine is the priority. Let's hear it.
That was loud.
This loud rattling on startup could be a failing timing chain tensioner or maybe oil filter drain back valve, but I'm more concerned about engine knocking at this point. Notice how the noise changes, comes and goes. I would expect if it was a rod bearing, which I suspect, it would be more consistent. It does sound like a very pronounced rod bearing knock, but in my experience I've seen flywheels being cracked and timing chain tensioners causing this very similar knock. So this is why I'm still in the denial stage and I want to try everything before I pronounce this engine non-repairable. I always like to start with fault codes because it may tell me something I don't know, it will give me a better picture of what's going on. There are 29 engine faults, that's a lot. Let's see if they tell us something useful. Alright, we have cylinder knock above threshold. If it was one cylinder it would be useful, but all four of them, I can't believe that. Actuator supply, that's a circuit fault, not mechanical fault. Now, engine oil pressure, that's the problem. That's not good. It could be a bad sensor or it could be a rod bearing. Cylinder misfire. That's also useless when it's all four of them, but there's cylinder 4 active. That could be something. We should check that one first. The intake manifold, okay. Now, camshaft position and slow response, that could be our problem. It could cause the noise, or it's causing noise because it's not getting enough pressure because of the bad rod bearing. By the way, this is oil pressure sensor and the connector is full of oil, which could be the reason for oil pressure faults. Let's clear all of the codes, run the engine again and see which one come back first, because a lot of those faults are old and not relative anymore. Let's try to start it. And see which codes come back. Only one fault came back, which is not related to the knock, and I will take care of it later. Because I was still in the denial stage, I decided to remove drive belt to completely isolate accessories from the engine. I've seen some crazy stuff and alternator making knocking noises, so I just wanted to be sure. This belt looked terrible, by the way, because of all of this oil dripping on it. Of course it didn't help and the noise is still there, so I tried to unplug VVT actuator, because apparently if it fails it can make cam gear to rattle. I don't recommend the next test because it can damage your ECU, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you unplug each coil while engine is running and the knock goes away, this is how you know which exact rod bearing is bad and whether the noise is coming from top or bottom. This is exactly what I was talking about. Voltage spikes like this, it's not healthy for your ECU. At this stage I have to admit there is internal mechanical failure, and everything is pointing towards cylinder 4 rod bearing. It's time now to use a screwdriver trick to pinpoint a bad rod bearing. But first, I want to run a compression check because this will tell me the overall health of the engine and if it's worth rebuilding it in the future. Always loosen spark plugs by hand because you can break them with a drill. And you don't need fancy spark plug sockets or magnets. You can always use ignition coil boot to remove them. Now let's see what compression tester tells us. If the compression is good, it's just a bottom end problem and I may rebuild it in the future. I like to compare 3 compression cycles with a continuous compression results because 3 compression cycles results would give me a rough idea of a volumetric efficiency of each cylinder, and a continuous compression results will tell me the actual compression the cylinder can hold. In this case, all cylinders showed around 180 psi, which is really good. Now it's finally time to visually confirm a bad rod bearing without disassembling the engine. Best way to do it is to remove all spark plugs and slide a long screwdriver in the cylinder on top of the piston, then rotate engine by hand until piston goes down and press on the screwdriver. If it made a clunk noise and you see screwdriver went down, that means you found a bad rod bearing on that cylinder. At this point, I couldn't deny anymore that it needs new engine, so I went ahead with removing the old engine. And once it was removed, I decided to remove oil pan just to look inside and see how much metal is in there. And as you see, there is a lot of metal in the oil pan. This is definitely looks like a very bad rod bearing problem. But it was my lucky day and I was able to find the same car at the junkyard and I just pulled the engine from it. The engine looked really good and clean with no external leaks. So I had good hopes for it. Even the drive belt was in a great shape, so I'm just gonna reuse it. Now just final touches before the moment of truth. The new engine is in now, and since I picked it up from pull apart, I really don't know for sure if it's good or bad. Let's find out.
Runs.
So now we know it runs, but it doesn't run well, and all of the lights are on. At least it's not knocking, because that would be a big disaster. Um, let's figure it out. I think I've heard some backfire, and I hope it's not timing chain. I was hoping the knocking was something simple, but it ended up being a bad engine, which I already replaced, and there is no more knocking noise, so I'm happy. But there is something else going on with this engine, and since it came from pull apart, there's no telling what it could be. I just hope it doesn't mean I have to replace engine again. I've had enough of this car for now, and I will leave this for the next video. If you went this far, thanks for watching, and if you want to see a complete fix, see you in the next video.